Well, hello everyone. Sorry for the late start. Welcome to another wonderful Water Wednesday because cold medication does not play nicely with hard liquor. I am, of course, your host here on Midnight Hatter Live, Steven, and joining me as always is the ever dapper Adam Blue. How are you doing,
There you
buddy?
go. Doing good. Yeah, dapper. That's right. I've got the curls going on. Yeah, it's whenever I shampoo, they just decide to
Yep.
curl all up, and I just Bob Ross it for a few days. It's just
Yeah,
how I
Shirley
do it.
Temple style. But no, I
Yeah,
appreciate I appreciate the matching
yeah,
navy blue Gundam shirt, navy blue Gundam hat. That's
that's right. Yeah, coming in with style.
yeah,
What's what I do here.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But yeah,
hey,
the
what's
chat
I see the chat's already
is.
popping off.
I know.
Oh man. Hey, I've got all the regulars here. Zionic Shadow, Ultronymous, Brian Zanichelli, Goose. We've got multiple geese in here. Spanking Goose, of course. David, good to see you, buddy. Hey, hope you all are doing well. Hope you all are having a good day and a great week.
Yep.
I my voice has sort of come back. I'm not congested anymore, so at least I'm comfortable projecting, and I might even yell tonight. We'll see how it goes.
Good. We need some of that. We need the projecting. We need your
Yeah.
yelling. Yeah.
Um, hey Ian, good to see you there.
Yeah.
But
Hey.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we've got a great show in store for you guys because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of announcements I want to share with you guys. I probably need to start paying someone to like put some timestamps for the different announcements that I put in in
That's a good
these
idea.
live streams because I worry that some of this stuff is going to get lost in the shuffle. But I do want to mention a huge shout out to the team over at Backed By. Backed By, if you guys are not familiar with it, is a Web3 creator support platform and also protocol. It's actually two in one. So it is a blockchain based Patreon, basically. And I've got the links down in the description below. If you choose to support the channel that way, that is uh, obviously favorable. Um, you actually give more money to the creators if you support that way than if you support via Patreon or via YouTube or whatever. There's a lot of great people already on the platform, and it's a super secure platform. It's gone through a lot of securities testing and things like that, and because it's on the blockchain, none of your content can ever be censored, erased, or removed for any reason. That's honestly the biggest draw to me is the fact that the you never know what with YouTube. Like
Yeah.
this stream might
It's
be
true.
taken down because I tell Adam that his hat looks good.
Yeah.
And fact checkers there's several third party fact checkers that have confirmed that the Gundam Explained logo is not attractive, and therefore we're gonna copyright strike it. No, I
No,
kid,
but
of
that's a
course.
good point. Because even, like, with music, you know how, like, they have music libraries out there that you can, like, you pay a little bit to put songs on there. I've heard where over time, they lapse the ownership of it, and then they start striking your videos. Like, that's made me
Yep,
scared about having music, so, yeah,
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
a good
so
point there.
it's a neat platform. I encourage you guys to check it out. Obviously, do your due diligence, excuse me, when it comes to using cryptocurrencies and stuff. They do use stable coins, so they are tied to the U.S. dollar. So that's pretty cool. It's not like you're gonna like support a creator in Bitcoin and then like all of a sudden your Bitcoin value is gonna drop or something like that. It's all based in dollars and cents, but it is you know like I
Ahead of
said,
the game, man. Ahead of the game. When the worldwide economy crashes, you're gonna be one of those that has this, like, futuristic way of, like, having some sort of commodity or whatever, yeah.
I hope that I hope that that's not the case, but always hedge your bets, buy gold, I guess, like buy, I don't know,
Yeah.
buy those like weird meal kits or whatever. um But no, I was lucky to be one of the beta testers for the platform, and it is awesome. You can
That's
import
cool.
all of your Patreon content, so it's like everything is seamless. It's a beautifully designed platform. Like I said, link down in the description below if you want to check it out. And like I said, that's only if you desire to financially support creators that are on that platform. But I guess it's probably a good time to address the big elephant in the room regarding tabletop gaming content, right?
Yeah.
I have not made a video on this because A, I'm not a legal expert. I don't really care to read a lot of these documents that I don't understand, and I'm not going to pretend that I understand them myself. But I did make a big post over on Patreon as well as on Backed By, which is down in the description below, regarding the open game license from Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons and how that is going to affect Gundam 5th edition, Gundam 5e. It's not really the
Yeah.
5th edition of the Gundam tabletop game since I only made two, but but it is based on Dungeons and Dragons 5e rules,
That'd be
right?
rules. Yeah.
So there is, I guess, some implication involved with that where maybe there could be some conflict. Honestly, I've always been more worried about Sunrise or Bandai coming after me and saying, "Hey, don't use our IP for your role-playing game." And that's fine. And honestly, I make $0 off of off of Gundam 5e. You know, the website is all it's all hosted on my private hosting anyway, so I was paying for it myself, and it's gonna stay up in perpetuity, like the post said, um, until I get a cease and desist letter.
Yeah,
Ultimately,
and I
is
mean, it does Bandai or Sunrise, have they had a history of doing that? I mean, to the extent of you're just using names of things technically,
so the
you know?
only time that I've seen it come up is with the Kickstarter that came up that was called Gunpla Top at first.
Mhm.
So there was a tabletop skirmish game called Gunpla Top that was based around using Gunpla in like a skirmish setting, kind of like Warhammer 40K rules.
Yeah.
And they said that they were in talks with Sunrise about getting the rights to use Gundam, and since then they have changed their name to Mechatop and then
Okay.
closed the Kickstarter campaign. So
Oh,
I don't think that that went well for them. Obviously, I've always maintained that Gundam 5e is a work of fan art. It's a work of
yeah,
it's a
exactly.
labor of love, not a labor of
Gain of
financial
it.
gain.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as long as it is allowed to exist, I will continue to contribute to it. But of course, if anyone tells me that they are offended by it, that possesses the rights to do so, then I will have to take it down. But honestly, I don't think it's going to get like that. I think that a
Yeah.
lot of the conversation around the open game license 1.1 that was leaked and then now officially published has been a little blown out of proportion. It's kind of like it reminds me of like the and Adam, you and I talked about this in private. It's like it reminds me a lot of like the net neutrality debate where it's like, no, they're gonna throttle websites and no one's gonna be able to access the internet. Some things I'm not a big fan of Shirley laws, but this might be one of those things where I think that they're going after specific creators. I think that they're going after specific companies that
Right.
exploit and manipulate the open game license for a lot of personal gain.
Right.
I think that a homebrew Gundam version of D&D is not going to offend anybody, not in their pockets and not in their intellectual property. So as long as that's the case, we're in good
Yeah,
shape.
and I mean, a lot of times these companies are just doing what their lawyers are advising them of just in terms of covering their asses for loss.
Yeah.
Because if it comes to where there's a small creator doing something, it's like they're probably not going to be targeted because there's not an actual loss or some sort of defamation of their name in some way due to using their property. And sometimes there's a lot of times you see where video games, people will make fan games or port games or whatever,
Yep.
and sometimes it will be taken down because then, oh, that company is actually doing something related to that in the future. They just can't announce it, but they also don't want this to kind of get into what they could gain from it. So, corporations are bad, but sometimes they don't mean to be.
Yeah,
and that's not really their intention of in certain aspects.
true. That's well put. I think that sometimes it's yeah, it's not as ill conceived as people try
Yeah,
to malign them as. Now I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with it, but
yeah.
I'm also not empowered to control it. So let's see. I see USS Talos. Good to see you in chat, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
Dan, good to see you lurking and listening while I cook dinner. Nike, the issue is YouTube keeps changing their policies so frequently. Amen to that. Videos that were okay can later be taken down, or videos that have been taken down are later okay. You know,
Yeah, and sometimes it's they pick and choose who gets taken down and who doesn't.
certainly, certainly so. Oh, Lucas, good to see you in chat. The YouTube algorithm is run by is run by highly opinionated and judgmental moderators. Yep, the Jannies, so to speak. And that's another conversation that you and I had today, Adam, about people that get just a little bit of power, just
Yeah.
the petty tyrants, right?
Yep, that's right.
Um, Ian saying my monthly subs showing up. I don't know if I followed that. But yeah, Nike says even if you make $0, Bandai Sunrise could send a C&D. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
like I said, that's and they haven't yet. You know,
yeah,
security through obscurity. But if they ever did, I'd have to take it down, and that's fine. You know, I'm okay
yeah,
with that. This has always been something that, like I said, was available for everyone to do, and I mentioned this in the Patreon post, and it's a free to everyone to if you want to read my thoughts on the OGL in total. But I will reiterate this is that the goal of my YouTube channel has always been for people to kind of take control of their own gaming destiny and not rely on third parties, not rely on, you know, things that might disappear in the future. So that's whether it's video games, whether it's tabletop games, whether it's Gundam, whether it's fantasy, the idea is build your own things, create your own things. I'm learning how to do it myself, and I'm showing you the way. And if
yeah.
you, you know, like I said, do it yourself. Now, I did see, I heard the audio. Thanks for the sub, whoever subbed.
Oh,
I swear the Twitch notifications are still killing me. I get the audio, but I
hmm.
don't get the visual
Yeah,
on my
that's
stream.
interesting.
Let's see. Dan says derivative work, technically copyright infringement. Yes, it is. It
Mhm.
is. Warhammer 40K is an option. Had no idea that would be that difficult. Yeah, Warhammer 40K. That's another franchise that I think is currently kind of in the air there. Um, Still a better idea to make Gundam 5e a separate IP. Well, that's something that I mentioned in the post that I put on Patreon is that I do have my own intellectual property, my own story, my own universe that I've created that I am basing my video games and my tabletop gaming around. I haven't announced it officially yet because, you know, I still have some trademarks in the works, but suffice to say, there's something coming soon that is not Gundam from me that I hope you guys are gonna like. It is sci-fi, it is fantasy, it is mecha, it's all of the good things that
Awesome.
we all agree are awesome, and I hope that you guys are gonna like it. Let's see. Pyro, I'm glad that you are staying up late to join us. No, I
Yeah,
did
good to see
not
you,
check
bro.
my browser source. I blew it because, you know,
So many things you gotta check. It's always like that.
exactly right. Soon, soon, we will have Ready Player One. Well, on the note of Ready Player One, I think it's probably time that we hop into our topic in proper. Is I have recently been playing around with the OpenAI chatbot, and I wanted to see what are the full capabilities that AI can do, right? Like all these artists on Twitter are complaining that, you know, AI is taking our jobs and they're stealing our artwork and stuff. And I'm like, okay, if I'm a guy that makes video games, is an AI going to steal my job? Is an AI going to steal my artwork? So I have been playing with this, and let me go ahead and switch screens over here so I can show you what I've got here on the old
And
laptop.
Yeah, while you're doing that, like, what's cool is with this if people aren't too familiar with, like, all this AI stuff that's going on where AI is just doing everything. It could write an article
Yeah,
for you. It's making image which it kinda started with the image maker stuff. But
true.
what you're about to do is very interesting. I haven't seen it to this extent, but I was watching a stream, I think it was last night or the night before, David Jaffe, God of War creator, where he
Love him.
was putting in the thing, like, using the Apple code, which I'm not too familiar with, uh, write a Space Invaders game. And because that's kind of simple and it's not too complex,
Yeah.
the AI wrote the code for a Space Invaders game with the Apple code. And so you can kind of see where we're going here. Then
Dude,
for
that is
fun,
so
he wrote,
awesome.
write the code for better pacing in God of War Ragnarok. And then it said, I'm sorry, that is too complex for me to do. And it was like, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has its limitations, and we are going to push those limits today because I think
Nice.
that, I have a good feeling for how well it can process different commands, and I think that AI is definitely lacking in terms of problem solving in certain ways.
Okay.
Um, I've used AI honestly for, like you said, for text generators. In my day job, I've written like blog posts where, I generate an entire blog post like 5 steps to take to get 20 more yards off your golf swing or something like that. And it does a pretty good job. It's like,
That's crazy because
square
there
up
was
on the
this.
ball and like, all these different tips. And I'm like,
I remember when I was working in social media, there was this company, I think they're called Brafton, and you paid them where they would release SEO articles for you a couple times a month. Just those random articles that are really nothing, but it picked up by the search engines. And that's for sure putting them out of business
oh
because
yeah.
those are low quality content in the first place?
And
And
they only exist to boost SEO scores through
yeah,
backlinks. Like that's
yeah,
all it is it's
right.
like, "Hey, look at us. We're writing blogs about this topic. Therefore, if you have this link to this website, that website must be credible."
Yeah,
It's terribly deceptive and I'm glad that AI is putting those people out of business.
I agree. I agree.
So that said, what we're looking at here on screen is a fresh Unity project that I've got built. Obviously, there's some things that I've thrown in here. We have a sample scene. Oh, I'm like playing with this. I've got two computers open here, so so
Handy.
I've got a simple scene set up. And you know what? We're gonna go ahead and use a Zeta Gundam model because why not? If we're
Yeah,
gonna have some fun with it.
might as well be the best Gundam.
Exactly. I imported some animations already, a little free animation kit that I've got that's got, some basic walk run animations. I don't even know if we're going to get that far tonight, but we'll see. We're going to, like I said, we're going to milk this AI for everything that it's worth. We've got obviously the materials and the textures that make the Zeta Gundam look like the Zeta Gundam. That's cool. So what we're going to do, and let me know if I need to bump up the resolution on my screen here for you guys to see. Hopefully
Looks pretty good.
it looks all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it does.
So, what we're gonna do is I've got my OpenAI chat open, and I've got a blank file here in Visual Studio Code, and we are going to ask the AI to create a character controller for us in Unity 3D using rigid bodies, and then we are going to try and cor- expand upon it, maybe correct it in some ways. We'll see what we can do with it. Because honestly, I think it does a lot of things right. It does a lot of things wrong. And I'm going to point those things out to you in autistic detail. So,
Let's do it.
let's start a new chat with our bot here. And here's what I'm going to write as our prompt. I'm going to say write a C# script, oh, for Unity 3D. Oh, for a Unity 3D rigid body character controller. Should we add any stipulations to it? Should it be able to jump, maybe?
Yeah, transform? No, it's probably
that
too
can
advanced.
transform. Um, that I would definitely get, like, this is too complicated. Um, well, we can add the animation, right? With oh, you know what? Here, what we need to do is we need to add third person to it because obviously third person rigid body character controller with animation or with a animator controller.
So, already by watching you do this, there is a job that will be created by having AI, and that is people that know how to communicate with the AI.
It
There you go.
honestly, that's part of it, is it's like you have to know what to ask for,
Yeah.
and I think that when this generates, what we're going to get is going to be something that you need to know a little bit about C# in order to really get the benefit of it, and, you know, we'll see how it
The
does.
AI whisperer, autonomous.
The AI whisper. Let's see. So, Lucas says, I've been using Dream app lately to generate Gundam, Optimus Prime, Darth Vader, and Black Panther art here. It's great with Darth Vader and Black Panther, not so much with Gundam and Optimus. Honestly, it probably just has more resources to search from.
Yeah, and Lucas was even sharing some videos on the Discord, of, like it was, like, Metal Gear Solid, the movie in the '80s, what it would look like, and it was, like, images AI generated, and then he shared one with AI generated images of the cast of, Mobile Suit Gundam, and it was really cool.
That
I love
is
this stuff.
that is awesome. So already you can see here on the left side of the screen, here is an example of a C# script for a third-person character controller in Unity using a rigid body and an animator controller. So far, so good. We've got using system collections, using Unity engine. We've got a few variables that it's plugged in, like move speed, turn speed, rigid body, animator, all that good stuff. In our start function, it looks like it's going to assign the rigid body variable and the animator variable. It's going to get the inputs from your keyboard or gamepad inputs. Uh, Interesting that it doesn't use the new Unity input system.
Mm.
Just a thought. Could be that there's a lot of Unity tutorials out there that already don't do that. Let's see what it actually called
Oh,
this.
I see. Because it has to have the resources for the AI to build upon to
Exactly. So it
yeah,
has to be pulling this from somewhere, and I think it's
yeah.
probably pulling it from various Stack Overflow posts, from Reddit posts, from the Unity asset store forums, things like that. So it's calling the class character controller. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to hop back into Unity, and in my scripts folder, I'm going to create a blank script called character controller, and that is where we are going to all of our code from the AI. Hope if I could.
So really you're using the AI chat program to create the code that you then have as a file that you can just then put into, um, this controller, which it's in Unity? It's just a Unity thing?
Exactly. I
Okay.
don't know why I opened up OBS there, but um, let's see. All right, so here is our character controller in Visual Studio Code. Open that up a little bit. So yeah, once we have the script here that the AI has generated, we're just going to copy that and paste it into this code into the actual script that we're going to attach to the game object in Unity that should execute that script. We'll see how it goes.
Mm, yeah.
Now, one thing I will note is that this is the first time I have seen I've seen it generate the entire script in one post. Typically, and it might do this later on in the evening when we start asking it more complex things, uh, it will cut off like halfway through the code, and then I have to ask it again, like, "Hey, can you give me the rest of the code?" And it says, "Oh, I'm sorry for the incomplete code."
Okay, I saw that. Is that like a common thing? Because I saw that when David Jaffe was doing the Apple game, like, he did it and then he had to tell it to finish it.
I wonder if it has like a maximum like character limit. Like maybe it's limited to
Oh,
1,500
okay.
characters or 1,200 characters, whatever the case may be, that limits it to whatever you can do. Um, this looks very simple to me, and honestly, I I'm fairly convinced that this is not going to work just looking at it because it does not have anything to measure whether the character is grounded or not. Might
Ah,
not necessarily make a difference,
okay.
but according to the AI, this script assumes that you have set up your animator controller with a Boolean parameter called isWalking, so I need to add that to it, that controls the walking animation. And this script also only moves forward and back, but not up and down. You need to move the rigid body in all three axes. You need to change the code accordingly. It uses the input code get axis function from the input, so it uses the WASD keys on the keyboard. Cool. So let's let's set it up the way that it is telling us to set this up.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and save that. We're going to hop back into Unity. Um, let's see. Got our player object here. We're going to go ahead and attach the character controller, which we've got a rigid body, we've got an animator, move speed 10, turn speed 50. That looks good. We do need to create a Boolean that is walking, and go into our let's just go ahead and some of these animations that I've already got in place, and we're going to let's create an idle state because I think that we probably need a version that's just standing, and then we will create a version that is walking so that we can try and get that. Like I said, I want to give this the best chance to succeed as we can possibly give it.
Okay.
Walking. We will transition from walking or from idle to walking if that boolean is checked. And everything else shouldn't matter because the now what's interesting is that it does not reference the camera at all in the script, which I think is going to be a major misstep. You need to assign some animations to these uh, so that we have something to reference, right? So let's see. We've got animations, idles. We're going to take just a plain idle animation and assign it idle. Then in the animator, we select the walking animation, and we will assign a walking animation to that. Then we will be in good shape to test this out. Like I said, I'm not confident that this is going to work. I think that there's going to be some major bugs.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to write an AI script just to set it up.
Right?
No. No, but then again, I mean, this just tells me AI, just like CGI in movies, it's like supplementing
It,
what we're seeing, you
it's a
know?
tool,
What
right?
we're doing. Yeah.
It's only as good as the people that use it,
Yeah.
and I think that what we're going to find is that I am not very good at using
Hey, and
it.
until that person is a synthetic humanoid, I think we're safe, you
I
know?
hope so. So here's our game view. Let's go ahead and launch this. Let's see what we've got. So I already have a pretty basic third-person camera set up. Obviously, the idle animation is working fine. The Zeta Gundam is standing there looking very idle. The shoulders are a little broken, but that's my fault for the rigging. Let's see if it can move with the WASD keys. Well, look at that. It
Oh my gosh.
actually is moving but it does not rotate correctly. It just kind of
Yeah. But still, like, that is you almost have a game here. You've just almost
almost
made a
the
game.
this is so much fun, let me tell you. And then we'll just
Hey,
walk
you
right
give
off
this
the
to
earth.
little kids, and they'd have fun, an open world where you're a robot. There you go.
Yeah, I think that oh man.
Now, where did you get that model from? Was there a certain game?
So this
Or
particular model came from uh UC online, or yeah, UC Gundam online. So it's a
that Japanese only one?
I think it was a fan game, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the
That's
models
cool.
for this one are particularly simple, but
I guess the shading looks good. Is that done in Unity looking at the 3D object, or is that part of the model? Like,
so that is honestly all texture.
oh,
And we can go
oh, okay.
into the materials on that, and obviously we look at our texture map here, and it has like everything kind of painted
Huh.
in for us. We can actually play with the material a little bit and give it some different effects if we wanted to. So currently it's using a just a diffuse shader, but like for instance, if we were to go into legacy shaders and do a bump diffuse, then we could add a normal map to it, and you can kind of see it added a little bit of texture to
Yeah,
it
that's
looks a little
pretty
beat
cool.
up.
It does, yeah.
That's the
Low res.
weathered the
Yeah.
weathered version.
No, that is pretty cool. Yeah, it would be cool if you could just turn on some ray tracing. I don't
Hey,
know if it works that way, but that'd be cool.
that would be the next step. If I could have the AI write the ray tracing algorithm for me, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a few things missing with this script. One is that it does not check whether or not the character is grounded or not, which is surprising to me because that's usually one of the more default things that a third person character controller does is, based on a either a collider or a raycast, so like a line beamed at the ground to determine whether or not there is a ground underneath.
Yeah.
Um, there should be something to determine whether or not the character is airborne. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set a default bool is grounded to true. I'm going to add a second, or well, a third technically function here called is grounded. And what that will do, actually, you know what? We're not going to make it a void. We're going to make it a bool. We're going to say a
Of
private
course.
boolean is grounded. Of course. um. So let's see. I can remember how to write this from memory and not reference anything. We're gonna create a variable called raycast hit, and we'll say hit and say if this is where my Unity knowledge struggles. So if physics dot raycast, I want to say, see, there's probably something else that I need to add to this. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I get all of this correct because I don't want to steer you guys down the wrong path.
No, this is pretty amazing in the first place. Oh, Lucas Garrett's asking a pretty good question. I guess do you have to put in a command for it to then understand its spatial awareness so it doesn't like run into a wall? Or like let's say that was the edge of the world and you didn't want it to
Well, so
walk
there are
up there.
different ways to handle that. You could use Unity has a built-in system called like the nav mesh, which that is typically used for AI and pathfinding, and that would allow you to kind of set the boundaries of what you would want to do. But you could also just create a collider that impacts. So like
Mm.
if I were to create like a level, for instance, what I would probably do is just create an empty object, and we would add let's set it at 0, 0, 0, and then we could add a box collider to it that, oh, you know what? If we're trapped inside the collider, it wouldn't work. So you would want to create like several colliders around it that would block you out. But it is possible to do. That said, the nav mesh, if we were to bake it, oh, you know what? This is not static. There we go. So if we were to bake a nav mesh, you see how the ground sort of turned blue around the Zeta Gundam here?
Mhm.
That would define the limits of where the AI could pathfind. And
Oh,
so that would be a way of controlling, can only travel to these particular areas. Uh,
man. That is cool. This gets me to wanna get into this. It's like I could build my own Gundam RTS already.
maybe that's something that we just need to go ahead and do, because
Yeah.
I feel like
But
I
do it
feel
in a
like we're
way where then we propose to Bandai, "Here's our idea for a Gundam RTS."
exactly. So what we are going to do is, I was halfway right. We want to do our transform dot position. So what this is going to do is we're basically creating a line projection that comes from what I want to do is set it to be the center of the character and point downwards. And if it hits something, then we know we're on the ground. If it doesn't hit anything, then we are not.
Okay.
So, uh, I think I've got it right here. Transform position, transform direction. We want to do out hit. Transform direction would be vector 3 dot down. And the distance that we want to travel is actually going to be our transform. Well, see, this is where it gets tricky. And this is where, in the past, the AI has screwed up, because it sets the transform position from the origin of the player character, which is at the feet. You
Mm,
want the raycast to come from like the center of the character, so you actually want to create uh, a vector 3
no.
called origin,
Yeah, no more Vector 2.
and we say new vector 3. We're going to call a few different variables here: transform dot position dot x, transform dot position dot y plus 0.5 f, which stands for float, and then transform dot position dot z, or z if you are American like I am. I don't know why I've watched so many Unity tutorials that now I'm like saying English and Australian, like, oh, z,
Yeah, I mean,
or
hey, that makes me think
h.
of Lord Zed. That's my Zed.
Yeah, same here. So yeah, we're actually going to project that from the origin. We're going to say vector 3 down, 0.5 f. You know what? Let's go ahead and make it 0.7 f. And if that is true, if we do hit something, we're going to return true. And if we do not, false, return false. We'll see if this works, or if I am just suffering from cough medicine delirium. um, so what we want to do is make sure that we can only move if grounded. So update, and we will say if is grounded, then we do all of this good stuff, and if not, then we do not. Dent that a little bit. And we do need to make sure to set on update is grounded equal to grounded the function, which I need to capitalize different.
Yeah, Ian is saying this looks to him like it might be easier than coding a website. Do you think that's true? Because it seems like with websites, there's all these different elements that you actually have to bring together.
Oh, I don't know. I think that this is much more difficult than
Oh,
than coding a website. At least I would say so. All right. So it says 4850. I missed a comma, which I did. That's the other great thing about Unity is that when you do screw up, it lets you know that you screwed up.
oh, that's always good. That's
Yeah.
always good. I'm used to that.
So here we go. We have our Zeta Gundam, and we can move. And then once we get off of our platform,
Oh, looks nice.
he just keeps
That's
walking
square.
because now he doesn't respond to my inputs. He's
So I love
kind of
this. Is like
descending.
triggering new Gundam video game when I see this. Oh, is he like even walking downward?
Yeah, he kind of like slowly trickles downward, which I'm not sure what that was about. That could have something to do with the
Vector
gravity
4.
that's being applied to him. The angular drag
I don't
is
know.
only a little short. So let's go ahead and we're going to go back to our AI and we're going to ask it to add to this. Well, look, I'm going to be polite. I'm going to say, please add a jump action to the character controller.
And Antarmus is fast with this. He goes, his MS is held down by gravity. Man, quick with those jokes.
Got him. All right. See, look at this.
See.
So quick. Sure.
Wow.
Here's an updated version of the script with a jump action.
Wow.
So let's see. Sorry, I've been missing a lot of chats here. Pix AI is a good anime generator. Probably so. Yeah, I agree. AI communications programming engineer. Everyone has to have a job in the new economy of robotics.
Yeah. I call it, my thought, an AI sympathizer. It's because AI, after so much time of getting so much info, might start going crazy. So you have to almost humanize it
Oh
by
yeah.
spending time with it of your own. And so then there could be people that it's illegal if you're an AI abuser, where you're purposely like interacting with it in a way where you're teaching it bad behaviors. Yeah, that could be a whole new world, you know?
I think that's a book, isn't
If it's not, I'm gonna write it.
it?
But it probably is. I bet what's his name? That what, Philip K. Dick or whatever?
Yeah, either Philip K. Dick or Isaac Asimov.
Yeah. Or do you,
Yep.
and then George Lucas made a movie of it, I bet. Or
That's right. And he credited neither of them.
yeah.
Um okay, so this is interesting. It gave us another script out of the gate here. Adds a jump action that can be triggered by the user pressing the jump button, which is typically assigned to the space key or the A on a gamepad. I'm surprised that it actually mentioned a gamepad on this.
Yeah, I know. That's cool. All
Okay,
those
well,
console players out there.
I'm curious how this is going to work here. So, if the player is currently jumping or not, when the jump button is pressed and they are not jumping, it will add an upward force to the rigid body, which I see that it adds an impulse force, which we can talk about forces and force types in Unity
Oh,
because
I like
force
light side.
types.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's right. There are no gray Jedi in Unity, all right?
Yeah.
That is a myth. So okay, so this will be interesting.
Yeah.
So it is very important to note that on collision enter will not work if the rigid body is kinematic set to true. Well, our rigid body does not have that. So let's go ahead and we're going to replace the work that I did with what the AI did and see if they're any better.
Mm.
I'm surprised that they created a boolean, so a true false variable for jumping versus just whether it's grounded or not. Because typically it's like whether you're falling or you're jumping, you're still in the air, right? So
Is
like
because they know it's a Gundam. They know it's the Zeta with its flight system.
right. They know that it's not going to fall.
Yeah.
They're like it's waiting for me to add the transformation gimmick to it. So let's see what this updated version of the function does. So obviously the camera controls are still working smooth. The walking is still kind of wonky because it doesn't actually rotate the character according to the camera direction.
Mm.
So that's kind of a funny quirk. Uh, but it does jump technically. Oh, well, nope, now it's done jumping. It doesn't want to jump for me anymore.
Huh.
So I think the first thing I would want to do is so we have our get our we get our inputs, we change the velocity of the rigid body, but what we don't do is we don't set everything relative to the camera. So what I would probably do is we would say we've got a public, I would call it a transform because really we only need the location and rotation of the camera. We're going to say it's a cam. And then we're going to say,
Would you put, like, if it's the camera of where it's looking or the camera of, like, I guess, the base of the model? You know what I mean?
well, so what we can actually do is there's a handy function that is that we can use to find game object with tag. And so if something is tagged as the main camera, then we can get that and say, "Hey, this is our main camera," and set everything relative to this particular game
Mm.
object. Let's see if we can do that. Main camera. I think that ought to do it. And then what we need to do is actually set. So we've got our move X and our move Z, move Z, because Y is the upwards, and you're not moving up and down. You're moving across the X and Z variables in 3D space. Um, so what we're going to want to do is set these relative to the camera instead of the relative to the scene.
Mm.
So let's, instead of doing this, I'm going to go ahead and comment this part out, and we're going to add a new little line of code here saying movement. Well, vector 3 movement equals um, move x times cam dot forward. No, we actually want cam dot right for that, because that's going to be the horizontal plane of movement. So it's going to be move C times cam forward plus move X. It would help if I spell forward right. If this works, we might have something. And then we will say RB, our rigid body, and add force. I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy what we've got down for the jump variables, right? So it's like we're adding force according to the movement. And then we want the move speed to be our move speed variable, which is 10, set by default. And then we want our force mode. Like I said, we're going to talk about this later. So force mode in Unity talks about what type of force to apply to an object, whether it is a sudden impact force or whether it is a steady, slow force. Impulse means everything's generated at once versus force is like a slow, steady application of force. Let's see if this works.
Okay.
I'm not entirely convinced that I wrote this correctly. Yep, I have some errors here. So cannot convert vector 3 to float and cannot convert force mode to float. Okay. Line 30. Well, movement is not a float, so I'm surprised that that is an issue. Oh, you know what I think it is? I need to just remove move speed from there. And it should work. All right, let's see if this will actually make our movement relative to the camera instead of relative to the world space.
Okay.
Okay, we've got some rotation. It's kind of tank control-y. The rotation speed is not what I would like it to be.
Ah,
But like,
but
you know, if I've got the camera facing this way and we are holding the W key this way, it kind of slowly rotates the way that we want it to, which is that's the desired behavior.
yeah, hey, it's a mech. Tanky controls are welcome. So, wow.
Well, so suffice to say, I would say that the obviously out of the box AI generated code does not do what we want it to do necessarily. Oh, I didn't even fix the jump mechanic there, but
It's gonna take some time before it actually gets there. Because
exactly.
it even seems like just as games are being made, they're becoming more and more advanced. Sometimes it's third-party tools that are doing some things, so it'd be very hard for AI to really understand a full encompassing, uh, code to get everything done. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
so
And
game devs, you are okay.
yes, we're we're in good hands. Um, so let's say we wanted to really challenge this. We are going to ask the AI to write a new Unity 3D character controller based on Gundam Battle Operation 2.
Wow.
Let's see what it comes up with. If it even remotely... Oh, yep, there we go. I'm sorry, but I cannot provide you a full-fledged 3D Unity 3D character controller for a specific video game such as Gundam Battle Operation 2 is too complex.
At least it's giving you a very specific and descriptive answer.
Well, you know what's interesting is this is probably going to be the most fascinating part of it is let's say I go in and I edit this request and I say write a Unity 3D character controller with the abilities of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh.
Oh, save and submit. Now, that would be a complex task and involve many different
Hmm.
mechanics. What's interesting is I actually already asked it to do this before.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. However, I can provide an example of a basic script that would give a character some of the core abilities found in Breath of the
Wow.
Wild.
Amazing.
Okay, so we've got climb speed, we've got glide speed, we've got glide force, we've got glide deceleration.
Dang. Well, then I wonder how far you can get with an RTS because I don't think those are super complex, you
No,
know?
not at
It's a
all.
lot of it's like pathfinding really and yeah, that's so I can see where again, like you were mentioning, AI is just a great tool where a dev can kind of skip ahead, to get the groundwork done and then iterate on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that knowing what you're and especially knowing what you're asking for, right? So, like,
Yeah.
knowing some of the nomenclature and knowing, hey, I want a physics-based character controller as opposed to like a default Unity character controller, that makes a huge difference. And being able to determine what exactly the script is doing, um, and it's interesting. I'm also going to draw attention to this before we close out for the evening, is that these particular scripts that are being generated tonight are not heavily commented. When I was testing this out the other day, the the comments on the scripts were insane. Like it was saying things like calculate how much time it has been since the character has been gliding. Therefore, you know, so
Oh,
it gave you very specific details about what each line of code was doing.
so
This
this
is
is already
not doing
evolving.
that.
Is that what you're trying to say? This is already evolving to where it's being a little cleaner with its output?
I think that it's in particular because I'm logged in. I think it is already it's already knowing that I already know some of that stuff. It doesn't need to explain
Ah,
certain aspects of the code to me because of the responses that I've given it. And I say, this is the ability that I'm looking for. These are the variables that I want. Because I've given it some of that stuff, it's like pulling back a little bit and saying, well, then you don't need this stuff. You just need
that
the
that
script.
that
You don't
brings up
want the
another point because it could be that AI also helps clean code. It could
Yeah.
go through someone's code and be like, you this could be more efficient. This doesn't make sense or something. Yeah.
See, and here we've reached that glitch stage, right? So like we've hit a spot where it says like rotate character and then it just doesn't finish the
Oh,
function. So like I said, game developers, we are safe. AI
yeah.
is not coming to steal our gerbs. But
Gerbs.
and that goes for every creative field. Honestly,
Yeah, I think so.
AI is a fascinating tool, and it really does pull the cumulative knowledge of the internet. Um, like I said, one of the major flaws that I noticed is whenever it is trying to detect whether a character is grounded or not, it never accounts for the vertical offset of the height of the character. And so what ends up happening is it projects a line downward from the origin of the character, which is their feet. And if the character's standing on the ground, that line goes beneath the ground. So it never detects it. So half the time whenever I would generate a character controller using AI, the character would be flying because they
Oh,
don't realize that they're on the ground.
yeah.
And it's like a two-line fix because all you do is you add that vertical offset. But
Wow.
suffice to say, Elon, you have some work to do.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be a long way.
um but yeah, before I sign off for the night, I want to check out the chat, make sure I didn't miss any important comments. Let's see. What command? Oh, no, that's Lucas said earlier regarding and then we talked about whether it's easier than coding a website. um Considering this came mostly from AI, pretty cool. I agree. I mean, it
Yeah.
moves the character, which hopefully,
Yeah.
Adam, you and I brought this up the other day, is people commenting that Gundam Battle Operation devs are lazy.
Oh,
And that
I
just
know.
like that triggered me a little bit because I'm like, how
I
dare you? How dare you call a game dev lazy?
I
Because
know. Oh,
yeah, and if that gives you any indication about the level of complexity that a game like Gundam Battle Operation 2 has, where you're talking about multiple animations, you're talking about individual scriptable objects, that some of these mobile suits have multiple weapons versus some of them only have like two weapons. There's ammo control, there's all these different variables to account for.
I know.
Don't tell me that they're lazy for not including your favorite mobile suit.
And I learned from Talos, who's in the chat, I learned that, like, even in Gundam Battle Operation 2, the hitboxes are exact. Like, if you
They're
missed a
very
head and
precise.
there's the antenna on the back and you hit that, or he was showing when one of the units were crouching and the wings extended just a little bit, it kinda gives more of a horizontal hitbox, so you almost are exposing yourself more. It's all those little things that the devs are doing an excellent job on that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a lot of work. It really is.
Um, but it's work that you and I could probably be doing here and create ourselves a little Gundam RTS that
Yes.
I,
Uh,
I think we could probably put something together here, and I'd love to go a little further with this AI code development and see what kind of pathfinding options it comes up with for us because it'd be pretty
yeah.
pretty sweet. Ian says at least the AI is honest. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
for now.
what's the old joke like? Oh, it's it's not much, but it's honest.
Yeah,
Um, well, sweet. Yeah, like I said, this was a fun little experiment that I wanted to do.
yeah.
Obviously, I am not the kind of guy that can challenge a computer program. I would get my butt kicked if I played against an AI that knew how to play chess or Dota or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But but yeah, Adam, is there anything else that I'm missing from tonight?
No. No, this was a very interesting session as always, learning something new. I feel like this is where at one point, and I bet a lot of people could say this that are watching this, where we had just a general understanding of how AI is incorporated into various things. This kind of shed light on the nuance of it. It almost goes back to the beginning when we're talking about Wizards of the Coast and their language.
Yep.
It's the nuance that a lot of us don't understand that really paints a better picture for us to not be all scared about things.
Yeah, it's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? And if
Yeah.
you remove the last two, then the first one goes away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I- if you know what you're dealing with, you don't necessarily have to be scared of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun tonight, and I'm gonna continue playing with this. I might even make just 100% AI generated game just to upload to the website and have you guys play with for free because I think it'd be a
Oh,
sweet little experiment. But
yeah.
But yeah, as always, links down in the description to support the channel in all sorts of ways. Obviously, the new backed by platform link down there. You can support Gundam Explained, Adam's channel
Oh,
in
yeah.
the links down below. Congratulations, Adam, for hitting the milestone of 3,000 subscribers on the Gundam Explained channel. Huge deal.
Yep. I want to
I'm gonna
thank Witch from Mercury episode 12 for having a lot of controversy. So that video got a lot of hits. Yeah, that's
something about tomato paste.
yeah. Exactly.
No, that was awesome. Yeah, so I hope that we've got something exciting planned for tomorrow's podcast over on
Oh
Gundam
yeah.
Explained, uh, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central. Hope you
Yep.
guys will tune in over there, and yeah, leave some comments down below if you think that there's any other AI experiments that you'd like me to play with.
Good
Maybe I'll have an
idea.
AI generated Gunpla that we build.
Oh, wow. Yeah, now I'm thinking 3D printer, AI, there's something there. There's something
We
there.
we we can make it happen. We have the technology. But yeah, thank you as always for joining me, Adam. This one's been a lot of fun, and
Yeah, definitely.
looking forward to getting together and talking more Gundam tomorrow night. Thank you guys for keeping the chat lively. I hope you guys were
Yep.
not too bored by all of the um the
No, it's
minutia
pretty
of
fascinating.
code. But yeah, thanks again, guys. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and we will catch you tomorrow.
See you.